Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Hanna. Thanks that you're here and want to listen to my talk. I hope it's okay that I speak in English. My Russian is not yet at the point like presenting. Like I'm still trying to get there at that level. And yeah, so I want to talk about my work that I'm pursuing here for the last 4 to 5 months. And yeah, I'm very happy that I can be part here of the exhibition. I saw how everything came together, how there was so much work and effort put into the different artwork pieces. Yeah, I'm very grateful for the possibility to present something here. And so I'm a PhD student at the University of Cologne in Germany, and I'm working here in a company which is called Eduviso. And I'm funded by the DAAD, which is like a German exchange program, so thank you for this funding. And that's what I want to talk today about. So I want to give some personal background because this is maybe not like a purely research environment. This is more like an art environment. Usually, of course, research should be objective, but I, of course, have my own cultural background. I come with a certain perspective to this country, with a certain history, and this does in a way, of course, influence how I see things, even though it shouldn't be too much. And then I want to talk about labor migration in the Kyrgyz Republic, about recruitment of foreign nursing staff in Germany, which is now a big topic in politics and in the media. And I want to kind of discuss the idea of sustainable or like ethical recruitment, because this is, I think, a difficult point sometimes. And I want to talk about the company that I'm now working in, what their approach is to this topic of labor migration. And in the end, I'm very happy if there are some questions or if you want to discuss certain things. I'm happy to hear about your experience maybe with migration. So the personal background, I'm from Würzburg originally. This is kind of a small city in Germany that no one knows and no one knows how to pronounce, which is fine. And I changed my home, because this is here also about home, quite a lot the last 10 years. I was studying in Geneva, Cologne, Maastricht, Zurich, kind of trying to find my way in psychology research, being even more attached to some neuroscience research, which is like a totally different thing. But I didn't really find the meaningfulness that I was searching maybe in like brain science or like neuroscience. And I graduated 2021 from Cologne, and I still didn't really know what to do, so I pursued a volunteer year in Kyrgyzstan, and I worked for 1 year in the school Ümit Nadezhda. That's how I came here. I would have never thought that I will one day live in Kyrgyzstan, and I also would have never thought that I will learn Russian at one point. It was really just coincidence that I came here. And that was really an amazing year for me. It was very, gave me a lot. The work with children with disability in this project was something that was very like fulfilling and was something like very warming. Like this whole school is like a beautiful place here in Kyrgyzstan. And so after this year, I realized that I want to stay longer and that I somehow want to be active in this country for another, I don't know, like another time. And I started a PhD here at this company, Eduviso, in cooperation with, or like at the university, but in cooperation with Eduviso. And this is like one picture here, not far outside the city, where it's like kind of my favorite place here, but outside of the city on this beautiful Alato Mountains, where I was living before I was living here. Now I'm living in this house. Yes. So, labor migration in the Kyrgyz Republic. I don't know how much you know about this topic, but there's like a huge percentage of people that are working outside of Kyrgyzstan. It's like around 15 to 20% of the total population. And of course, this is influencing families and like the whole social structure in the country. There's also a lot of studies about how like parents, when they're working abroad and they are not there when their children are like growing up, how this is also like impacting Kyrgyzstan or like, yeah, the psychology of the people. And like an economical factor is that a huge amount of money is like sent back. So there's like 30% of the Kyrgyz Republic's GDP are remittances, so money that is sent back from people working outside. And that makes Kyrgyzstan one of the countries with like the highest proportion of remittances in proportion to the gross domestic product, so the GDP. And the vast majority of migrants here are working in Russia because of the language and kind of like the historical closeness, I guess, and also in Kazakhstan. And there are also quite a lot of reports which report like discrimination and violence and like not safe labor places, and also that a lot of people are like working in like low earning jobs. So this kind of situation in Kyrgyzstan. The situation in Germany is at the moment that we need a lot of young people, and that Germany is kind of now opening up the market, or like opening up the migration possibilities, because we don't have enough nurses, for example. Also like a lot of other qualified jobs are like missing. But especially in the health sector, it was obvious during the corona crisis that there are not enough nurses. And there's some studies, like 70% of the hospitals report that they will need within the next 3 years foreign nursing staff. And in 2020, there was like a new law, which is called Fachkräfteeinwanderungsgesetz, a long German word. And that is now facilitating this migration process. Before, it was very hard to somehow get papers or like to somehow get into the country. So Germany is definitely relying more and more on foreign qualified nursing staff, which is a good thing on my side. So it's like Germany should like open up. It should be like more diverse and like give people a possibility to stay in this country, because we have the possibilities in Germany. To be a nurse in Germany, just for context, it's a well-paid job. You can have a very good living from it. Of course, you're not going to be like super rich, but you can have a good living. And it's also like a job that has like a lot of appreciation in the population. Like a lot of people are like looking up to a nurse and saying this is like a good and reliable job, which is how I learned it here in Kyrgyzstan, not the case, because a lot of Kyrgyz nurses have very low payment, and it's not necessarily a job that a lot of people want to do. But of course, also in Germany, I wouldn't say that everything is perfect in Germany. Also in Germany, the labor or like the work condition for nurses is not like perfect. It's a hard job for sure. It's not an easy job, but it's kind of well paid compared to other countries for sure. And I think it's also a job that gives you a lot back. So I have experience in like working in hospitals, not as a nurse, also a bit as a nurse, but like seeing this environment and how it can be a good workplace for you. But this is now kind of the broader picture, or like kind of a discussion, like how sustainable, how ethical is this whole labor migration? Like the idea sounds somehow good, right? That you can just, like young people that here in Kyrgyzstan want to leave the country and want to make more money, they just go to Germany. And this is, of course, like this individual level of people that want to maximize their professional and personal potential because they want to find a better life. They want to have the possibility to travel to Europe. They want to have the possibility to, buy a house and build another future. But then on the global level, what does it do to Kyrgyzstan? Like, what does it do when all the qualified people leave the country in a situation where it's also already not very stable, or the health system in Kyrgyzstan is maybe also not the best and needs more support. So I think this is like more maybe a sociological aspect or like philosophical debate, because in the end the individual has the freedom to choose, I guess, and the individual should have the possibility to go their way and maximize their potential. Looking at this, this is from the WHO, from the World Health Organization. And when we look at the density of nursing personnel per 10,000, of course it's not like Germany or like the European or like American countries that have like very low proportion. It's like the African continent or like India, where there's like the greatest lack. But that's also where there's like aggressive recruitment sometimes from African countries or from India, which is seen as problematic. But when we look at Kyrgyzstan is here, it has like a density of 55 nurses, and this is like seen as something over the threshold. So legally it's allowed to recruit nurses from Kyrgyzstan, and it has to be seen how it develops, like how many nurses will go to Germany. When we look at the language barrier, probably there won't be so many, because it just takes a lot of time to learn German, and it's not so easy to learn German. Okay, so this is like kind of more the global context of this labor migration. Yeah, now to the program that I'm working in. The company is called Eduviso. It's now working for like 4 years here, and it has a cooperation with several med colleges in Bishkek, in Narin, in Karabalta, in Osh, and also with Jalalabad. And the students are like, the idea, which I think is a very good idea, is not that already qualified nurses that are already working as a nurse in Kyrgyzstan are recruited to work in Germany, but they are already recruited the young people after school. So they go to the schools, like Eduviso goes to the school and says, we are looking for people who want to work as a nurse in Germany. That means that there are already some people who would not work as a nurse in Kyrgyzstan will apply for this program. So the program is like in this way constructed that you have 3 years of apprenticeship at a med college here in Kyrgyzstan. And at the same time, you have to learn German to the level of B2 or B1 to be able to migrate to Germany and also work legally. And after this time, you have like 1 year or like 6 to 12 months where you have to do another training in Germany because it's not the same apprenticeship. And after this time, you're already paid during this time, not the full amount, but so that you can live. And then after this 4 years in total, you can legally work as a nurse in Germany. And you're supposed to stay 3 years, but after these 3 years, you can decide if you want to stay longer in Germany, if you want to go back to Kyrgyzstan, move to another place. So this is kind of the idea of the Eduviso program, how it is working now. Now the first students are currently going to Germany, and there's a lot of work about this, and I'm happy that Miriam is here. She's also working in the company, and she's like organizing a lot from like the administrative way and knows how much work it is. So what is now my part as a PhD student there? So I was kind of like giving some German classes. I was interacting with the students. I was kind of trying to understand their motivation, why they want to go to Germany, or like their background. And I think it's very interesting to see for me how like excited or motivated these young people are from like 17, 18, 19 years old, and how much they want to like learn the language and really put a lot of effort in there, and how much they also see that they can gain some personal freedom in the chance to going to Germany. But of course, it's also interesting for me how this will develop like in the long term, or like how will they, after these 3 years studying here in Kyrgyzstan, integrate in Germany? How will they be happy there? Are they happy with their work? Are they happy in their life? Will they go back to Kyrgyzstan after 3 years? Will they stay longer? And in psychology, there's, if you look at like differential psychology, there is of course personality important, where you divide mostly between 5 big factors. I know there are a lot of psychology tests on the internet for personality, but mostly they're not scientifically based. So this is like openness for experience, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism are like 5 big factors that I want to look at. And then motivation is kind of the question of like a certain proactivity, like which individual is able to attack problems, and if there is a problem, still persists in their behavior. And then of course intelligence is also important because you have to learn this language, but also then this idea of cultural intelligence, of being able to take the perspective of another culture. And yeah, so now it's interesting how the people like go through this program of learning the language first and like becoming a nurse in Kyrgyzstan, because that's already pretty hard, and then later how they will integrate in Germany. So yeah, this is kind of the process that I want to look at during my PhD, I guess like the next 2 to 3 years, and try to publish some data and put up some research paper. It's pretty open what I will do, but this is kind of the idea. I think it's a very interesting project. It's also in the context of this like exhibition, like what is home, how can it change, how can it stay, like what is it now in this like modern world where everyone is like moving a lot of places, and how can like individuals still succeed in this environment. Okay.